This is Asia Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Dawn Tan. Tonight's top stories. Curfews ordered for New Year's Eve in New Delhi and other major cities across India. China approves its first COVID-19 vaccine. The Sinopharm jab will be provided for free to Chinese residents. In his New Year message, Prime Minister Lee says that the high level of trust Singaporeans have in the system has stood out in the country's COVID-19 response. India has imposed night curfews for this year's New Year's Eve in several states and other major cities. Now, authorities there are trying to head off a potential new COVID-19 wave of more cases of the new coronavirus variant as that emerges. Ishan Garg with this report.
In Delhi, large public gatherings are not allowed from 11 p.m. in the night till 6 a.m. in the morning, which means that most clubs, pubs and party venues will have to shut shop right before midnight. Authorities are calling to step up security measures and increase surveillance, saying that the New Year festivities could be a threat to India's dipping caseload of COVID-19. Many other cities are following suit. Similar restrictions are being imposed in Mumbai, Bangalore and Ahmedabad. Concerns are that the new, more contagious strain of the coronavirus could undo India's progress if it becomes prevalent in India's population of 1.3 billion people. 25 cases of the new strain have already been confirmed here, and authorities are actively tracing all those who've travelled from the UK in the past month. All hopes are now on a vaccine, especially with officials now saying that a vaccine could be approved in the new year. The government hopes to start the first phase of its immunization drive in January, under which it will inoculate 300 million people, starting with healthcare workers, frontline workers and the elderly. Ishan Garg, CNA, New Delhi.
South Korea is set to announce changes to COVID-19 restrictions this weekend as infection rates show no signs of let-up. It's also, again, on the brink of imposing the toughest distancing guidelines. South Korea reported more than 960 new cases, mostly local infections. At least 5 cases of the new, more infectious strain were confirmed as well. The current level 2.5 measure in Seoul and its surrounding region is set to end on Sunday. The government is working with local officials and experts to come up with a new plan. Daily cases are hovering around 1,000. That's well within the threshold for the highest level 3 measure, and that would be equivalent to a lockdown. Authorities have imposed the highest distancing level in prisons nationwide for 2 weeks. The move comes on the back of a growing outbreak at the Dongbu Detention Center. More than 900 infections have been reported there. Other cases have been detected in churches and private gatherings across the Greater Seoul area as well.
현재 3차 유행이 진행 중이며 해결해야 할 방역 대응에 많은 문제점과 과제가 있습니다. 환자 급증에 따른 병상 확충, 역학조사 및 접촉자 관리 역량을 확충해야 되고
Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga is holding talks with ministers to discuss a possible state of emergency in the country. Japan is grappling with a growing COVID-19 outbreak. 6 more cases of the new virus strain circulating in the UK have been reported there. The patients are travellers returning from Britain and the United Arab Emirates. Tokyo has also reported a record daily rise in cases with over 1,300 new infections. Its medical system is already at its highest alert level. Mr. Suga urged the public to celebrate the New Year quietly and avoid non-essential outings. Western Australia will close its borders to Victoria from New Year's Day as new infections there continue to grow. 8 new cases have been reported in Victoria. Now, that's up 5 cases since earlier today. Victoria has now been reclassified as a medium-risk state, prompting neighbouring states to impose a hard border. Officials have ordered recent arrivals from Victoria to self-quarantine and mandated a COVID-19 test. This decision comes after other states imposed hard borders with New South Wales, the current epicentre of the outbreak. Hong Kong has confirmed its first case of the South African variant of COVID-19 in an arrival from that country. At the same time, the Chinese mainland has reported its first case of the UK strain. The patient is a woman from Shanghai who arrived from Britain 2 weeks ago. She was hospitalized immediately as she was showing mild symptoms of illness. Authorities have carried out contact tracing. China has given conditional approval to its first domestically developed COVID-19 vaccine. The Sinopharm jab will be provided free under the country's national inoculation program. Now, conditional approval means that the company must submit follow-up reports as its research continues into the vaccine. Sinopharm is a state-controlled company, and it said its shot is close to 80% effective against COVID-19. But no detailed efficacy data from clinical trials has been publicly released just yet. Still, the announcement sends a positive sign for the global rollout of Chinese vaccines. And that's especially so for countries that perhaps are unable to provide the cold chain conditions required for the Pfizer or Moderna shots. Even before receiving the go-ahead, Sinopharm's vaccine was one of 3 jabs granted emergency approval in China in July. Authorities plan to vaccinate 50 million people by mid-February ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday. Pakistan will buy 1.2 million doses of Sinopharm's vaccine. It's the country's first official confirmation of a vaccine purchase. Officials there are saying frontline workers will be inoculated for free in the first quarter of 2021. Pakistan has approved $150 million to procure COVID-19 vaccines. This will initially cover the most vulnerable 5% of the population. Private organizations have been given permission to import any other vaccines that are internationally approved. The country is also running phase 3 clinical trials for another Chinese-developed vaccine called CanSino. In his annual New Year speech, Chinese President Xi Jinping called 2020 an extraordinary year. He encouraged the world to stay united in combating the COVID-19 pandemic.
同志们 朋友们、女士们、先生们，大家好。
In the 10-minute address, President Xi said China put people and lives first when faced with the sudden coronavirus pandemic. He commended the solidarity and resilience of Chinese people to fight the virus and saluted the heroic spirit seen amongst frontliners. Mr. Xi said China overcame the impact of the pandemic and was the first major economy to achieve positive growth in the world. He spoke of how a year of hardship had brought understanding of the significance of working together as a global community. Looking ahead to 2021, he noted that China will mark the 100th birthday of the Chinese Communist Party. The high level of trust Singaporeans have in the system has stood out in the country's COVID-19 response. In his New Year message, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says that this has helped Singapore avoid major divisions in the community that have happened elsewhere. He's also urged Singaporeans not to falter in this final stretch in the fight against the pandemic.
One small step for man, one giant leap for recovery. Even before the arrival of vaccines in Singapore, the gears were set in motion to stem losses amid the pandemic. 5 budgets totaling nearly 100 billion Sing dollars have been passed to keep businesses afloat and workers employed. Even as things gradually improve, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says Singapore's economy is not yet out of the woods, although signs of stabilization are starting to emerge, with employment picking up and MNCs making significant new investments. Mr. Lee adds that he looks forward to a rebound in 2021, although recovery won't be smooth and with activity likely to remain below pre-COVID levels for some time. For instance, even though Singapore has largely kept local infections down, imported cases from returning citizens or from construction workers and foreign domestic workers resuming work could result in community infections. Despite such uncertainty, Mr. Lee is urging Singaporeans to emerge stronger from the shared experience of this crisis. He added that the renewal of the people's mandate from the general election showed that Singaporeans are confident in the PAP government to ride through the crisis. He says the government will continue to strengthen the social compact and give every Singaporean equal opportunity to do well, to take advantage of opportunities in a different world. Mr. Lee adds that Singaporeans must come together to rebuild better and stronger from what he calls the defining crisis for this generation. He says a new generation has shown what it takes to make Singapore survive and succeed, but the fight against COVID-19 continues, and there will be new and unexpected hurdles in the months and years ahead. Despite this, Mr. Lee says he's confident Singapore will blaze a path forward if everyone stays together as one.
Capping off a year like no other, countdown festivities are shaping up to be similarly unique here in Singapore. No big crowds or outdoor concerts to ring in the new year. Instead, celebrations are going virtual to keep people safe. Melissa Goh joins us live now from the float at Marina Bay in the heart of downtown Singapore. Good evening, Mel. How is the countdown being celebrated this year where you are?
Well, you know, it was pouring earlier, but right now the skies have cleared up and it's just in time. You know, I'm at the float, as you mentioned. It's right in the heart of Marina Bay, which is typically, you know, the center of all the action and the place to be on New Year's Eve. But this year it's a little bit quieter. But there is a show that will still go on, and that's MediaCorp's Let's Celebrate 2021. It's an annual countdown show, but this year it's going to be very much different from previous years. If you can tell from the scenes behind me, it's going to be aired live from the float, but there will be no live performances, no live audience. It's completely empty here, so it's very different. But what the show really aims to do is to rally Singaporeans to come together to look forward to a better year ahead in 2021. It will also celebrate the best of local and international acts, including, international pop star Jason Derulo, as well as homegrown rapper Young Raja. And, I'm told that some of these performances are something to look out for because, they've been filmed all around the Marina Bay area, so lots of scenic spots to look out for. And although, the audience seats are empty tonight, but the interaction will move to social media instead. If audiences have posted a video of themselves dancing along to Jason Derulo, they may see themselves featured during his segment later on. And, audiences can also post their countdown moment online so they can count down all together as a nation. Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Keat as well as Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong will also be making special New Year messages later on in the show starting at 10:30 p.m. I also had the chance to speak to the show's host, Joaquin Gomez, earlier on.
One thing I definitely miss is a live crowd, for sure. I mean, it's the same with NDP as well. But the one thing that we can look forward to, and it's something that I advocated for a very long time, for like a show like this, I hope to see more of our local musicians and artists, to which we are featuring loads of established names, to which I'm very sure in the years to come, it will open up a platform for other musicians here in Singapore as well.
Mel, there will also be something to look forward to at the stroke of midnight, especially in other parts of Singapore.
Yeah, so what would a countdown celebration be without, the fireworks as well as the light shows? And this year it's no different in that aspect. Here at Marina Bay, we'll be seeing light projections every 3 minutes, every 15 minutes for 3 minutes. It's going to be 60 light beams shooting out into the sky in a show of unity, resilience, and positivity. And apart from that, we're also going to see light projections like the one here at the Art Science Museum coming up on the various buildings throughout the night. So that's something to look out for. And apart from that, there's also fireworks coming up from various locations island-wide, although they won't be coming out right here from Marina Bay. So the audiences will have something to look forward to from their living rooms, be it from MediaCorp's live TV broadcast or right outside their windows. They might be treated to an explosion of colors right from there. So the People's Association is also organizing a slew of online activities, like virtual games, virtual quizzes, all for people to count down safely from their homes. So all this is really in the backdrop of Singapore moving slowly into phase 3 while still facing the very real threat of COVID-19.
Those fireworks displays going straight to the heartlands this year. Mel, thank you very much for that. Melissa Goh there, live from Marina Bay here in Singapore. Well, in just a few hours from now, Britain's departure from the European Union will take full effect after nearly half a century of often turbulent ties. A new beginning beckons for both British and EU citizens. Hard borders that were done away with decades ago will return, and free movement of more than 500 million people between Britain and the EU will end. Now, the exit is sparking fears of disrupted food and medical supplies, and that's despite the free trade deal signed by London and Brussels. Ollie Barrett joins us live from London for more on this. Ollie, businesses haven't had very much time at all to adapt to that trade deal. Are those fears of supply disruptions justified? How prepared is Britain for the exit?
I think it's inevitable that we will see disruption of some sort in the coming days and weeks and months. It's very difficult to predict exactly how bad things are going to get. Many companies and individuals are very well prepared indeed, others less so. The government has been urging firms for some time to be as prepared as they can be for January the 1st. But as you were saying, it's been difficult for many of those businesses because they haven't known exactly what reality they're going to be facing come January the 1st. Not until that deal was done and dusted with the European Union right up against the deadline. So we may well see some disruption to haulage and freight movements between the two continents. We may well see some disruption for individuals travelling to and from the European continent. Now, all of those rules have changed, but we are now just hours away from that change taking place. 11 p.m. local time in London is when it kicks in, because that is midnight in Brussels. And by the way, I will be in Parliament Square for CNA as that change takes place. I will be wearing my long johns live from London as Britain's new relationship begins with the European Union.
I definitely won't miss that one, Ollie. Ollie, have a happy new year as well. Ollie Barrett there, reporting live from London. For the last 4 months, Chinese authorities have been on a drive to woo tourists with a series of campaigns aimed at domestic travellers, including free entry to tourist attractions. But some tourism operators say they're still struggling to stay afloat. Olivia Song with this report.
Let's meet in Wuhan, says this video recently released by the city's Culture and Tourism Bureau, featuring highlights of the city's best sites, as well as its culture and local delicacies. Chinese authorities are keen to show tourists that things are back to normal in Wuhan, and it seems visitors we spoke to tend to agree.
那不会了，现在都管控得很好了。 那很放心了。
今年其实也挺不容易的，今年疫情的一个情况嘛，然后刚好现在也就是疫情情况比较稳定，然后我们就一起就是在这边看一下武汉的一个风景，感受一下武汉的文化，对，然后是一个非常英雄的城市。
Authorities have also engaged groups like Beijing-based social platform FCN to promote the city. In October, they organized a tour to Wuhan for foreigners living in China. Over 40 signed up for the trip, which, apart from the usual tourist spots, included visits to the Leishenshan Hospital, an emergency facility that was built in less than 2 weeks to cope with the overwhelming number of COVID-19 patients in the city during the height of the outbreak, and a government exhibition showcasing China's success in taming the pandemic.
因为武汉当时出现这个疫情之后呢，其实在全世界的声音都是非常的繁杂，所以说大家其实对武汉都没有一个准确的一个认知。所以在4、5月份，就是中国它的疫情慢慢开始好转的时候，当时 FCN 就有这个想法，说想让世界去听一听武汉的声音。
But some tourist-reliant businesses say government assistance may need to continue for a while.
Now this is Hubu Alley, one of the must-visit spots for tourists to the city. But I'm told that it's not as busy as previous years. Even though Wuhan saw over 18 million visitors during the National Day holiday period in October, some businesses here say the numbers seem to have dropped with the start of winter.
The owner of this shop selling local Wuhan delights says while government incentivized groups help bring some much-needed footfall, without them, tourist numbers may only be about 10% of what they were before.
有的其实像团队来的团的那些老年人啊，他们就会说啊，政府补贴啊，不然我们才不敢来呢。武汉那么危险，那个时候我说我们武汉其实已经不危险了，是比哪里都安全，全民检测的。
And it's a double whammy for Ms. Wu. She's also missing out on business from her other group of usual customers, the city's university students. Many have to remain on campus as part of COVID-19 prevention measures. 30-year-old Jiang Shao, who owns this 24-bedroom hotel, is also grappling with a loss of income. He attributes the drop in visitors to the cold weather, as well as reports of new local cases of COVID-19 in several parts of China. In a bid to stay afloat, he's taken to lowering room rates to just $8 a night.
同行之间 就是隔壁左右都在说，你这个价格能赚钱吗？当然不赚钱啊，当然不赚钱，但是我总比空着好啊。说实话，现在是靠贷款在撑着，是非常难。
His only hope now is that the upcoming Spring Festival travel period and warmer weather will bring more visitors to Wuhan, though these hopes will be dashed if there's a resurgence of COVID-19 in the city. Olivia Xiong, CNA, Wuhan.
Robotics design company Boston Dynamics has taught its robots to dance. And they're so impressive that the video, well, it's gone viral. That's the humanoid Atlas, the dog-inspired Spot and box-moving Handle robots. It's not the first time that the company's creations have caught netizens' attention, though. Just last year, the Atlas robot showed off its gymnastic skills. Some Twitter users are delighted by the robot's lifelike moves. Others, though, they find them creepy, saying it's another sign that machines are going to maybe take over the world. This has been Asia Tonight. Headlines anytime at cna.asia. We'll leave you now with more of those dancing robots. So, creepy or fun? You decide.